Have you ever felt like the world you once knew is slipping through your fingers? Like the things that used to matter so much suddenly seem hollow, distant, almost unreal? You wake up one morning, and the air feels different. Conversations you used to enjoy now drain you. Goals you used to chase now seem meaningless. It's not depression. It's not confusion. It's something deeper, something older. The truth is, awakening doesn't happen the way you think it will. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It doesn't come with a warning label. It moves through you quietly, in strange and subtle ways, long before your mind catches up. It dismantles your old world piece by piece, not to punish you, but to free you. Most people expect awakening to feel like sudden bliss, a rush of peace, a burst of divine energy. But the reality is much messier and much more beautiful. Real awakening feels like losing everything you thought was solid. It feels like standing barefoot in the ruins of the identity you spent your whole life building. It feels like forgetting who you are, not because you failed, but because you're finally making space to remember what's real. You don't wake up by adding more to yourself. You wake up by letting go, by shedding the noise, the beliefs, the attachments that never belonged to you in the first place. And that process doesn't always feel good. It feels like confusion. It feels like loneliness. It feels like standing at the edge of everything you thought you knew, with nothing left to hold on to. But here's the paradox, that emptiness is not the end. It's the beginning. It's the first clear sign that something ancient and powerful inside you is stirring. Awakening isn't something you do. It's something that's happening to you, right now, whether you realize it or not. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice the signs. One of the first strange signs you're waking up is the growing sense that you no longer belong anywhere. The groups you once felt comfortable in start to feel foreign. The conversations that used to energize you now feel empty. It's not that you suddenly dislike people. It's that you can no longer pretend. You can no longer shrink yourself to fit into places that require you to forget who you are. You find yourself pulling away, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. The noise becomes too loud, the masks too obvious, the games too meaningless. You need space, space to breathe, space to feel, space to hear the voice inside you that's been drowned out for so long by the demands of the world. And it's in that solitude that something extraordinary happens. You begin to realize that the loneliness you fear is not loneliness at all. It's the beginning of wholeness. It's the moment you start building a relationship, not with the world, but with yourself. Another sign is the collapse of your old desires. The things you once chased with such intensity, status, approval, material success, start to lose their flavor. They don't satisfy you the way they used to. You can still achieve them. You can still play the game if you want to. But deep down, you know it's hollow. You know there's something more, something truer, something that can't be bought, won, or proven. And even when you try to return to the old ways, to convince yourself that you still care, it doesn't work. The spark is gone. The illusion is cracked. And part of you, even if it's scared, knows there's no going back. These signs don't scream for your attention. They whisper, they nudge, they unsettle. Awakening doesn't force itself into your life. It plants seeds and waits to see if you'll notice. The real question is not whether the signs are there. The question is whether you're willing to see them. Another strange sign is that the stories you've told yourself for years begin to unravel. Stories about who you are, stories about what you deserve, stories about what's possible and what's not. These stories used to feel like truth, solid, unquestionable. But now when you repeat them to yourself, they don't land the same way. They feel hollow, mechanical, foreign. You find yourself questioning everything you once accepted without a second thought. Why do I believe this? Where did this story come from? Is it even mine? And in the quiet between these questions, a deeper truth begins to emerge, one that can't be explained, only felt. You start to realize that most of what you called reality was actually a series of inherited scripts, programs passed down from families, cultures, societies that were themselves asleep. You weren't born to be a copy. You were born to be awake. And the discomfort you feel now isn't a mistake. It's a sign that the old programming is starting to loosen its grip. There's also a growing sensitivity to energy. You walk into a room and feel the heaviness before a word is spoken. You meet someone new and sense their true intentions before they reveal anything. You can't explain it logically. It bypasses thought altogether. It's not paranoia. It's not judgment. It's awareness. The field of information you're connected to is expanding, and your ability to read it, feel it, is sharpening. But this heightened sensitivity also comes with challenges. You become more sensitive to chaos, dishonesty, superficiality. Things that used to slide off your back now feel unbearable. You can't numb yourself the way you used to, and part of awakening is learning how to navigate this new sensitivity without hardening your heart. Because the goal is not to close yourself off from the world. The goal is to see it clearly and stay open anyway. You also begin to lose interest in conflict, not because you're weak, not because you're passive, but because you see through it. You realize most arguments are just egos defending illusions. You realize that most battles people fight are not about truth, but about protecting the fragile identities they've built. You no longer feel the urge to prove yourself. You no longer burn energy trying to be understood by those who have no interest in understanding. You let people have their opinions, their narratives, their projections, not because you agree, but because you finally see that peace is more valuable than being right. And with that shift comes a profound sense of internal responsibility. You stop blaming the world for your pain. You stop waiting for external validation to feel whole. You recognize that everything you seek, love, freedom, meaning, has always been inside you, buried under layers of conditioning, yes, but never lost. This realization is both empowering and terrifying. Empowering because you understand that you are not a victim of life. You are a participant. Terrifying because it means there is no one left to blame. No government, no society, no parent, no partner. Only you, standing face to face with yourself. And in that meeting, you discover something shocking. The self you feared to meet, the self hidden beneath all the roles, masks, and armor, is not broken. It's not unworthy. It's not lacking. It's vast, silent, immovable, ancient. And it was never afraid. The fear was never yours. The doubt was never yours. They were visitors, stories, clouds passing through a sky that remains untouched by storms. And as you start to see this, you realize something else. Awakening is not about becoming something new. It's about remembering what you've always been. If you're remembering something ancient inside you, subscribe and stay awake with us. Another strange and beautiful sign you're waking up is a growing reverence for the simple. Things you once overlooked, like the way sunlight moves through a window or the way a breeze brushes your skin, start to feel profound. You realize that the extraordinary isn't found in grand achievements or distant goals. It's hidden in the small, the quiet, the immediate. You start to see that life isn't something happening to you. It's something happening through you. You are not separate from existence. You are not an outsider peering into reality. You are the pulse of life itself, experiencing itself in human form. This shift is subtle. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It doesn't make you special or better than anyone else. In fact, it humbles you. It brings you to your knees in gratitude for things you once took for granted. You feel the sacredness of a breath, the miracle of a heartbeat, the gift of a moment. And because of that, you slow down. You stop rushing towards some imaginary future where everything will finally be okay. You stop postponing your peace, your joy, your presence. You realize there is no finish line. There is no destination where you will suddenly be complete. You are already whole. You were always whole. You just forgot. This remembering doesn't make life easier. It doesn't shield you from pain or loss or uncertainty, but it changes your relationship to those experiences. You stop resisting them. You stop seeing them as problems to solve. You start seeing them as part of the unfolding, part of the dance. And in that surrender, a deep peace takes root. Not the peace of avoiding life, but the peace of being fully alive within it. Not needing it to be different. Not needing yourself to be different. Simply being. And for the first time, maybe ever, that's enough. As you continue waking up, you notice another profound shift. The outer world no longer defines your inner state. You still see chaos, injustice, and noise around you. You still witness suffering and confusion, but something inside you no longer collapses into it. You observe without absorbing. You witness without drowning. You feel compassion without losing yourself in the tides of pain. This doesn't mean you become detached or cold. In fact, your heart opens wider than ever before. You feel the suffering of others more deeply, but instead of adding your own panic and fear to the noise, you become a quiet space where healing can happen. You realize that true change doesn't start by fixing the external world. It starts by shifting the frequency you embody, because the world doesn't change when you scream louder. It changes when you embody a different consciousness altogether. You start noticing that when you stay anchored in presence, people around you soften. When you listen without judgment, wounds reveal themselves. When you move without agenda, solutions appear. You're no longer trying to fix everything. You're no longer fighting reality. You're aligning with something deeper than conflict, something older than fear. And this shift isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it means standing alone. Sometimes it means saying no without explanation. Sometimes it means losing relationships that were built on the version of you that no longer exists. But the freedom you gain is worth every loss, because you finally understand. Your peace is not a luxury. It's not selfish. It's not naive. It's your responsibility. In a world addicted to division, chaos, and distraction, your clarity becomes a quiet revolution. A rebellion not against the world, but against the unconsciousness that created it. And you realize you're not just waking up for yourself. You're waking up for everything. Another sign that you're waking up is the quiet disappearance of the need to explain yourself. You no longer feel compelled to justify your choices, your feelings, your existence. You realize that understanding is not something you can demand from others. It's something they either offer freely or they can't offer at all. You stop looking for validation outside yourself. You stop trying to make sense to people who have no map for where you're going. And strangely, in letting go of the need to be understood, you find a deeper connection to life itself. You no longer live to be seen. You live to be true. And this truth doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't crave applause. It moves silently, like the roots of a tree growing deeper into the earth. Unshakable, invisible, essential. You realize that awakening isn't about becoming a louder voice in a noisy world. It's about becoming a silent presence that can't be shaken by noise at all. You embody your own frequency. You hold your own center. You walk through the world, not trying to change it, but being the living proof that another way of existing is possible. And your life begins to mirror that. Not always in dramatic ways. Sometimes in quiet, almost imperceptible shifts. The right people finding you, the right opportunities opening, the right moments unfolding with an effortless precision. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's resonance. As you align with your true self, the world around you starts to align with you. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped forcing yourself. And in that soft, powerful alignment, you realize you don't have to chase your destiny. You just have to stop running from it. As your awakening deepens, you realize it's not a moment you can hold on to. It's not a peak experience you can recreate at will. Awakening is not an event. It's a way of being, a continuous, living relationship with the present moment. You start to see that life doesn't need to be conquered or mastered. It needs to be met, breath by breath, step by step, without resistance, without agenda, without the endless search for something else, something more. You stop asking, "When will I arrive?" You realize you were never meant to arrive. You were meant to move, to change, to flow. And with that, the pressure eases. You stop treating your life like a problem to solve. You stop treating yourself like a project to fix. Instead, you meet yourself as you are, not as a goal to be achieved, not as a failure to be corrected, but as a living mystery to be experienced. And in that acceptance, your energy shifts. You move from striving to surrender, from controlling to cooperating, from grasping to receiving. This doesn't mean life becomes easy. Pain still happens. Loss still happens. But suffering, the constant internal resistance to what is, begins to dissolve. You feel pain without becoming it. You face challenges without identifying with them. You experience loss without losing yourself. And in that space, between what happens and how you meet it, you find the freedom you were always looking for. Not freedom from life, freedom within it. A freedom that no circumstance, no failure, no system can take away. Because it's not outside you. It never was. It's woven into the very fabric of your being. You're not becoming awake. You're remembering you were never asleep. You walk through the same streets. You hear the same news. You face the same unknowns. But you are no longer the same. You no longer move through life asleep, waiting for meaning to find you. You bring meaning with you. You are no longer at the mercy of the storm. You are the quiet eye at its center. You see patterns where others see chaos. You hear silence where others hear noise. You feel presence where others feel emptiness. This doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you chosen. It makes you responsible. Because now you know, the light you were looking for outside was never missing. It was always buried inside you, waiting for you to stop searching long enough to feel it. And the signs? They were never external miracles to be witnessed. They were internal shifts to be lived. Every strange discomfort, every sudden silence, every subtle crack in the old reality, all of it was grace in disguise. All of it was leading you here, to this moment, to this clarity, to this question. If everything you thought you were was just a story, who is watching the story unfold? Tell me below. Not with the first answer your mind offers, not with something you think sounds wise, but with the truth that's rising quietly now, deep inside you.